So you guys have probably seen my personal build sitting in the background of the videos ever since we were done because of the fact that this monitor didn't want to fire on. So if you guys remember that, today I think I've got it working and figured out. I'm gonna take you guys kind of for a ride of troubleshooting this Raspberry Pi monitor, and let's see if we can actually get an image on there so that we can set up our sensor panel.
Get your next gaming PC from Build Redux. Compare pricing to buying the parts yourself and stop overpaying. Pick your starting budget, see your estimated gaming performance, and then see your PC based on your choices. Plus, Redux offers a growing support hub to answer all your questions. And it's backed by a 2-year parts and labor warranty, so you're covered. Pick your budget, pick your games, and get Build Redux.
So we did a tutorial quite a while ago, actually. I think it was last year sometime, at least, about creating a sensor panel. And what we mean by sensor panel is it's just a small monitor output that does absolutely nothing except give you current statistics on whatever you configure it to be in your system. So for instance, and I'm kind of routing my USB power cable here now because I have not set this back up to confirm that it's actually going to work or not work. We do have a tutorial that we did regarding how to set that up. So I will put a link down below to that video, or maybe even a pop out on the screen right here, to show you how to do that so that you can see why we're doing this. But the thing is, like, I had debated actually just removing this altogether when it wasn't working and saying, screw it, do I need one of those? But you know, during my live streams and stuff on twitch.tv/JayzTwoCents every Monday and Wednesday, 7 p.m. Pacific, I've gotten so used to when people ask me, like, what's your FPS? Just going, oh, it's this. You know, I have multiple monitors for my stream setup, and I could literally just do the display on a regular monitor, but it's just so cool to have it sitting in your system here. I know there's a lot of third-party apps and stuff that will do this already natively. We use Ada64 and MSI Afterburner to get it all working. But once you become used to it, you kind of can't not have it. A lot of people will even choose just to put the screen on their desk, like maybe right in front of their keyboard or something. I just think it looks neat having it in the system, and I liked this kind of a 3-tiered system of motherboard, graphics card, screen, and the way that it looked. So let me finish getting my cables plugged back in right here, and then we'll test and see if it's gonna actually turn on. In fact, here's a small recap of what it was doing, where I would turn on the system, it would see power from USB, because this is 5-volt USB powered, and it would turn on for a second, and then just immediately turn off. Whether it had anything, you know, signal-wise going to the HDMI, it would just turn itself off. And we could not, for the life of us, figure out why. Took it off the system, had Nick go and test it with a motherboard or a laptop, worked fine. Got it back over here, wouldn't work again. Then it decided it didn't want to work anymore with the laptop, and we never got an image back since. What we couldn't even get it to do is even show the whole, like, and I gotta make these cables look nicer over time, but that's fine. We couldn't even get it to do the no display thing. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm just gonna turn the system on with that monitor, because now with the monitor hooked up, it should essentially show me BIOS and stuff. Look, it powered on. See, now it's working. So let me tell you what I did, and then, I don't know, maybe this will help. I might even disassemble the whole thing just so I can show you, even though it's a lot of work to disassemble it. So the light on the back turned red, and what this will give me an opportunity to do too is kind of cover up that LED, because I don't want that bright light bouncing off of there. Let me just see if it'll actually post right now with the system, or the system should post, theoretically. Also too, the post takes forever on 12th gen if it's lost power. There we go, see, it turned green. We should get an image here. Look at that, an itty bitty little BIOS. An itty bitty BIOS. Sick LAN rig, bro. Rocket League on that? Did I just turn itself off? No, wait, I think Windows. That was weird. We had an image for a second there and it turned itself off. What a weird problem, right? So if I unplug this and plug it back in, turns on green for a second, and then just turns itself off. We're back to that problem. Okay, this is actually good news, because I think I know what the problem is, and I actually did not alleviate the problem. What essentially happened here is I think I know what the problem is, guys. Look, we got an image thing, and then I put it all back together the way it was, and it was working. And I go, that's not good. because then you're not entirely sure if that's the problem. I think I know what the problem is, and I think it has everything to do with the 3D printed back support. I knew something was happening with the panel itself and not our power delivery, because one of the things Phil thought was like, well, maybe our USB is not actually giving us 5 volt, and that's why it's shutting off. I used the supplied brick, and that was not giving it was doing the exact same behavior. So I need to take the screen out. And the funny thing about that is it looks easy, but to get the piece out that I need, it's actually attached to this bottom plate. And guess what's also attached to that bottom plate? My hard tubed graphics card. So this is where someone might go, you know, I got some nuts installed in there. So this is a, what is it, 7mm with an extension. You go, oh, okay, cool, I'm gonna loosen up the nuts. Except for the fact that the holes were 3D printed perfectly so that the threads, like it threaded itself in there. So that doesn't exactly get it loose. So what I gotta do now, this extra step, and you know, to be honest, I don't want to like strip those threads out so the screw spins, because I can actually tighten it up because it's threading against itself. So I can take this out, but you can see now there's a power supply in the way. So in true Jay fashion and keeping things as complicated to work on as possible, now I have to loosen up the graphics card, or the graphics card, no, the power supply, and then swing it out of the way. Fortunately, there's just enough slack. You know, like I said, and then because this is here and there's no room for any sort of a screw, I have to do this part by hand. I mean, I'd much rather do this than have to take the graphics card out, because that means draining the loop. So if my theory is correct on what is causing this problem, by removing this back piece right here, and you can see I only have 3 screws in there. This is a 3D printed stand that Nick made. Just, he's using Tinkercad, nothing too crazy. Just came up with a little post system that's too big. Came with a little post system that, you know, just holds it, that mates up with these screws right here. These are additional mounting locations here for the front riser cable bracket that comes with the Spectre 3 case. So there's a couple positions you could put that in. We chose to push it all the way back, so I had room for the screen there to use those holes. But you'll notice there's 3 screws in here because they're not perfect. Like Nick's this is the first, like this is technically the prototype. We didn't even like adjust it at all. The holes don't perfectly line up. I said I would elongate or open up the holes slightly so they fit. I just chose to bend the bracket and squeeze it together real tight and screw these screws in. Well, upon looking at this more closely, what I noticed by looking down in there actually is by it squeezing on those brackets real tight, it was actually slightly bowing the board. So it makes me believe something was making contact under there by squeezing that. So by disassembling this, there, green. See that? So by relieving all that tension and letting the board flatten itself back out and no longer make contact in there, it now works. And it turned red because there's no image there. So I want to now theoretically test it like this without anything in there, and then see if our display will continue to show and not turn itself off. Because I mean, there's no reason it should have turned itself off or went to sleep or anything like that, because it sees a signal right there. There's a signal. It's gonna wait for me to plug in a keyboard, which I'm not gonna actually do yet. I just wanna get to the desktop now and see if it will continue to give me a display and not turn itself off. The nice thing too about having this in here like this, I wish there was someplace local that sold these screens. So we have a theory now that maybe when it's unplugged and I'm fiddling with it, that's allowing whatever's happening inside to reset. It's almost acting like an overheat kind of a thing, or it's time-wise. I mean, if it was a short, nothing's moving. If it's working, therefore it should not short. It also could mean there's a bad component on the board that over time, it then fails with just a short amount of energy going through it. But everything I can feel on here component-wise is cold to the touch. So it's not like I could put one of my little heatsink deals on there that I've got. It's just probably current causing something in there to overheat. So I found that now it's not doing it. I was squeezing it in a certain area and then it was turning itself back on. Okay, don't need a speaker. But what's funny about this now is it makes me want to maybe like see if I can't undo the ribbon cable and separate the two panels. And because I can see through, watch if I wiggle it's gonna go off.
This is actually the trolliest piece of tech right now.
Like I just squeezed it back to like not broken. I turned it off. And the question is, will it turn back on now?
Without any input, because
Yeah.
obviously that's weird.
Because I don't have a light. Yeah, so all I do is turn off the system and now it's not turning back on. All the power delivery is clearly over here.
Oh yeah, right when you push the power delivery in.
I mean, this can all be solved by just replacing the panel. It's just, I didn't want to spend, you know, 40 bucks if I didn't have to. Raspberry Pi 0, as in zero functionality. All right, well, I want to see now if I can separate these two panels and see what's going on the backside. I think it's something on the backside, honestly. Okay. We've got this, which I believe this is some sort of a grounding pad. This is all bubbly and broken looking. It's probably a little mini cap. And what's happening is that cap is just completely like borking, right? So it can't. So every bit of that cleaned off with zero damage. I don't think that was it, because it still looks coated. Like it doesn't look like it penetrated through in any way. But then again, it doesn't need to be much, right, to cause a problem. Let's get the metal stuff out of the way here.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah. So it's clearly when it's trying to output.
The processor's loaded more.
Yeah. There, it's off. All right. This is definitely time to call this one, because I gave it the old college try, and this is clearly a bad component somewhere on this board. So it's more than likely just a faulty board from the start. And I've had this board for like 2 years. Never used, still just in the box. So I'm gonna order another one. I thought I had this figured out and fixed, but this has like been the most possessed and like trolley attempt at fixing something that's ever happened. Like it was just like, okay, you fixed me. No, you didn't. Yes, you did. No, you didn't. Squeeze me. Yeah, there, I like it. Right there. Squeeze there. Squeeze harder. And then it was just like, no. So anyway, the sad part is this little screen works. It's no good without, like, why can't it just be HDMI right there? Because, I mean, I don't technically need half of what's on this board, because this is intended to also have these buttons, where are they? Right here, work with the Raspberry Pi directly. So there's a lot of functionality on this board with the touchscreen and stuff that I don't need. But what I need to do when I replace it, I need to make sure that the outputs for like the HDMI, or the input for HDMI and then the power and all that, are on the side and not the top or the bottom, because of the way that this is gonna go. So anyway, there we go. I tried, took you guys along for the ride. You know, when things don't go as according to plan, I like to show those too. I have no doubt, for the price that these boards are, that they're not going to be exactly the highest quality or most QA, QC thing in the world. If they can sell them for 40 bucks, they're making them for like 8, maybe.
And like 7 of that is the panel.
And how good can the robots be for making things $7 at a time? All right, guys, thanks for watching. Eventually, I'll get this system home. Every time I live stream, they're like, "Are you on your new system?" I'm like, no, my screen still doesn't work. So, all right, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Maybe it'll be more entertaining with actual results. Let's clean it while I'm at it. Dust is gathering and it hasn't even been used.